Okay, so for the second remedial session, right, what I want to do is continue on from the first one. So now I'll go on to do part B of the same question, which is the 2023 VJC promo exam question number 1 lah, right? So if you remember, the problem there was that the sugar prices were very, very high, right? So then there was a second part in the preamble that said, hey, there have been calls by the Indian government to impose price controls or to provide support for households in the form of vouchers, right? So part B, they ask you whether price controls or vouchers are more appropriate to help households cope with the spike in the price of sugar, right? So this is a 15-mark question. This is 10 plus 5. So unlike the part A question, this one will have evaluation marks, right? So 5 marks, right? So EV can happen in two ways. One is through an in-body evaluation, right? And the second one is through an end conclusion. So depending on the question type, sometimes the in-body evaluations is very, very hard to find. So in those cases, especially if sometimes you're very, very tight for time, then actually sometimes you can just omit the in-body and rather you move on to the requirements properly. Then you put everything in the conclusion. But then sometimes actually the in-body evaluations are very easy to do. As you will see for this question, there's not much brain power you can put behind the in-body, and so we will do that. Okay, so let's figure out. So for the 10 mark, same thing as per part A, there's going to be a requirement 1, there's going to be a requirement 2 lah, right? Okay, so let's figure out what's requirement 1 and requirement 2, right? So they ask you whether price controls or vouchers are more appropriate. So here clearly the R1 would be price controls are appropriate, and R2 would be price controls. So not price controls, but vouchers. Let me use the eraser. Vouchers are more appropriate, right? Okay, so I'm not sure whether you can see now. So actually in the case of policy questions, so this is a policy question, not to solve market failure, but it's a demand and supply context. Later I'll talk more about that. But for policy questions, and then they ask you for two policies, right? One and 2. So where questions are like that, actually the evaluation is very easy to score, right? So the EV1 is actually just the limitations of the first policy, and then EV2 is the limitations of the second policy, which is vouchers. Yeah, and then after that we're going to write the conclusion. So your red color portions will score the 10 marks, and in the blue color portions you will score the 5 marks for the evaluation. Okay, so that's the first thing I would say we need to figure out. So once you figure out, okay, you say, yeah, I got some kind of a general idea how I want to proceed. Then the second thing is this, right? So what is your policy trying to achieve, right? So the first thing you will see is that at face value, what the question wants you to do is how to help them cope with the spike in the price of sugar, right? So you have to interpret this and use econs terms into econs terms, right? So econs terms, what does cope with the spike of price of sugar mean? It could mean that it directly decreases the price of sugar, right? So the way to help you cope is to help you decrease it lah, right? So this makes sense. Okay, so this at face value, this apostrophes, these are not econs terms. Like you read this and like, what am I getting to, So you need to make sure you know what the destination is, right? So in this case, the destination is a decrease in price. Then you know, okay, I'm using demand and supply framework. So that's how you figure it out, okay? The other way is just through experience, of course. You read many past year papers, WA1s, WA2s, tutorial questions, as well as past year promo questions. Then you realize, oh, okay, yeah, so this is the destination. Okay, but as you will see later for the vouchers one, there's another interpretation of it, right? So I'll get to the vouchers one when I get to it. Okay, this for this one, just to iterate a couple of points. So for 15-mark questions, please, where it's easy, do the in-body evaluations and just write the limitations. You will do decently. Okay, at this point we really want to get our grade up, right? And so if it's easy, then just go ahead and do it. Don't leave it out. R1, R2 here is policy 1 and policy 2. And then finally, you want to make sure that you get the correct, use the correct topic. So here is cope with the price, the spike in the price of sugar. There's nothing about market failure. Okay, so the correct topic is actually demand and supply. Okay, so what I mentioned to you, I've written down in the slide. So this is requirement 1, which is the price control, and requirement 2, which is the vouchers. And you want to be clear about your destination. So your destination here is prices. Okay, and I mentioned to you that being clear about the destination means translating English phrases like coping with the price of spike in the price of sugar, converting it to econs terms. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's begin by addressing requirement 1, which is the price control. In the case of this, there are two types of price controls actually. One is a price floor and the other one is a price ceiling. So in this case, it's a price ceiling. Right. Okay. So what the first kind of price control is either what I mentioned is either a maximum price or minimum price. So in this case, because you want to bring down prices, you impose a maximum price. So you say, hey, prices better not go above $5 per kilo, right? Because $7 a kilo is unacceptable. Only $5 a kilo is acceptable. So it's a maximum price. Okay, a maximum price is a price ceiling. So you would establish a maximum price at Pmax. Later we'll draw the diagram. Okay, and you define what a maximum price is. You're legally bound not to charge prices above. And it would be only be effective if it's placed below the minimum price. Later we also talk more about it. Okay, because you want it to be below the equilibrium price so that you will press down the prices below to a price that's below that, because you'll find that the equilibrium price is too high. Okay, so the immediate impact of a price ceiling is that quantity demanded will increase, but quantity supplied will decrease. Later I'll show you this. So if you lower prices, more people want to buy the good lah. So this makes sense. And then quantity supplied will also decrease because at a lower price, people are willing to sell less, right? So if you are a farmer selling sugar, you would say, hey, actually the prices for sugar are so low because the government say I can only charge this price. Then maybe you want to go somewhere else. So I want to grow barley or grow wheat or something else, right? So quantity supply will decrease, and this will cause a shortage of QBQS. Okay, necessarily lah, right? So then, how does this improve or help people cope with rising prices? Is that previously you allocated goods and services based on prices, right? Who can pay more who can pay more will get the good lah. But now you have an alternative allocation mechanism, which is in this case queuing up, first come first serve basis. And so this actually benefits low income households. So while low income households don't have money to pay for the good, maybe they have the time to go and queue. And so then lower income households will get it, right? So it will, in this case, because it brings down prices from PE to Pmax, this is going to be a downward direction. It will help the households cope with the rising price, which is, remember, our destination here. And it's the destination here. Okay, so you want to make sure you get to your destination. Okay, at this point I want to talk about this thing that I mentioned here, learn the elaboration, and then I also mentioned learn the elaboration here, right? Okay, the reason why I say that is because when people learn about the price ceiling, they study the price ceiling, the only thing they study is the diagram, right? And then maybe they memorize the definition, right? So maybe you memorize, like, I don't know, this is the definition. And they learn, or they don't memorize anything else. Okay, what's going to happen in the exam is that you'll write that green color sentence and you will draw a diagram and you have nothing else. So I find this to be very true for this particular point, which is price ceiling. Okay, because people will feel like, yeah, I understand it, you know, but you know, like what I did previously in the previous video, what if you blank out the screen? Can you generate the 4 points? Because you need bulk. You need this and you need this. So what I put here is learn the elaboration. Okay, so what you do is the same thing as what I'm doing here on screen, which is to blank it out. And then try to recall the 4 points that are there. Okay, so please for this learn the elaboration. Otherwise, you will write one line, which is the green color highlighted one. Okay, so please learn the elaboration. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the diagram proper, right? So how will you draw the price ceiling diagram? So you want to just start off with a regular demand and supply diagram. So P and Q here, right? And then we have supply and demand, right? And then we have quantity here, and then price here. So in the case of a price ceiling, what actually happens is that the government finds that this P naught, this is unacceptable. It's too high, right? And the households cannot cope with the price of sugar, right? So what we do is we want to put a price ceiling. So we want to put it below the equilibrium price. So we have a horizontal line here. Let's call it P max, right? So we mentioned also just now that as you press the prices down, quantity demanded will increase, right? So what actually happens is that quantity demanded will increase to up to this point, right? So at this price, this is the x coordinate of the demand curve. This price, x coordinate of the demand curve. Okay. And then at the same time, because what I told you, the sugar farmers will say like, actually, why am I growing sugar? I should grow something else, right? So quantity supply will decrease, right? So supply curve is this, where it intersects the P max is here, so your quantity supply is here. So then you will get a shortage of this amount. Okay, so that's your diagram. Yeah. Okay, so then this will help fulfill R1, right? So a couple of things I want to iterate about R1. Number one, you got to learn the elaboration. Now, secondly, you got to make sure you draw the diagram. Draw the correct diagram, please. Okay, the wrong diagram, maybe just to iterate. So the wrong diagram would be something like this. So you don't want to draw the blue color line. If you draw this, it will be wrong. Okay, you want to place it below the equilibrium price. Okay, so that's R1. Yeah. Also, if you remember after R1, we're going to do EV1, right? Which is actually, if price controls are so good, then just put a price control. What is the government waiting for? Okay, so the first the bad thing about putting a price ceiling in this case is that there are some consumers who are willing to pay very, very high prices because of the shortage. And what will happen is you get something called black market. Okay, so they will resort to buying sugar at higher prices than the legal maximum. So this is illegal, right? So by right, prices shouldn't exceed P max, but then because of the black market, people are going to pay higher. So at the QS unit, what is the maximum price people are willing to pay? People are willing to go as high as, so you want to do, let's just erase the blue color line. So at QS, people are willing to go as high as this. BM stands for black market, right? So prices can be as high as this, right? And so what actually happens is that if this problem is very expensive, actually it defeats the purpose of the price ceiling. So you put a price ceiling there, it's supposed to be bring down the price of sugar. What you have done is you have actually increased the price of sugar, which is an unintended consequence, right? So you can say this is an unintended consequence. Okay, so this will be our evaluation. We're going to leave a paragraph here, and then this will be our evaluation, which is the limitation of the price ceiling. Okay, if you read the promo answer key, which you should actually, then you will see two other limitations. Okay, I just found this to be easy to understand, and there are some diagrammatic references. That's why I chose to write this one. Okay, so in your exam time, if you feel that the only one you can write, you can only have time to write one, then you can write this one now. Okay, I feel that this is easier. Okay, so please leave a paragraph, write the limitation so you can at least score some evaluation marks, right? You want to really give every opportunity for the teacher to help you out these promo exams. Okay, so what we've done thus far, we've talked about the price control, and then we also talked about the limitations.